And people are always like, "Oh, Anela, you're doing all these things. You did all of this by yourself." And I'm like, "I did not do anything by myself."
As an outsider looking in at your journey, it is so inspiring to see what you've been able to do. I was able to come to the Charlotte leg of your tour. Really, really dope. And one thing that you mentioned, and I was like, shoot, I don't want to say the same questions. So I was really mindful of that. But you mentioned that you were approached by National Geographic to write a book. So I would love to know, how did American Soul, how did the idea, the concept to come to you?
I always tell people that I'm an accidental author, right? A lot of people, and I feel bad because they'll approach me, and writing a book is a dream for many people.
Hmm.
And so they're like, "How did you find an agent? How did you pitch your menus?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm the worst person to ask because in fact, I didn't do any of those things."
Yeah.
And I have to say that it feels like this book came to me, that this project is something I was supposed to be working on, and it was inescapable.
Yeah.
So I had created this platform called Feed the Malik, which is where folks can still find me today. And I was sharing stories about food and life in DC and just exploring what it was to be in this internet space, right? And I was
Hmm.
using it as a creative outlet. But really, me as a Black woman who I had been living overseas and was recently moved back to DC, I wanted to reconnect with my community. I wanted to find out what was going on in the Black community in DC that I needed to know about. And that's what I was sharing about and writing about and telling stories about. And I guess my email newsletter landed in the inboxes of some folks at Nat Geo, which has
Hmm.
offices here in DC. And so they reached out to me about a book project.
Hmm.
And I thought it was a scam when I got the email at first because nobody just emails you from a major publisher and says, "Hey, would you like to write a book for us?"
Right.
Especially at the time, I didn't really have a large platform.
Hmm.
I had less than 5,000 followers. I think I was only on Instagram, and I was writing an email newsletter that was going out to not that many people.
Hmm.
And I was at the beginning of my creator journey,
Yeah.
but they saw something in my work and they believed in me. And it's been a long road to get to where we are now because American Soul, The Black History of Food in the United States, is a deeply historical book as well.
Hmm.
So it took a lot of research, a lot of interviews, a lot of sitting alone in a room, reading materials to get to where we are today, where it's out in the world and, I'm able to share it with people.
Oh, beautiful. So, this is a wellness podcast, right?
Hmm.
So, I would like to touch on food as it relates to our wellness, specifically soul food. A lot of times, soul food gets a horrible rap as being just unhealthy and all of those things. In what way can you debunk that just based off of the things that you've eaten, experienced, or have in the book itself?
I love this question because I think Black foodways in general are so often denigrated when in fact, Indigenous peoples and then Black peoples were the first stewards of the farm to table movement. We just didn't call it that,
Mm,
right? Because it
yeah,
wasn't fancy and it wasn't new
right,
American California cuisine.
right.
Um, and soul food, yes, is really associated with these celebratory dishes of Black Southerners, the kind of stuff that you might put on the table during a holiday or a
Mhm,
birthday. But soul food encompasses all of these legendary culinary traditions of the American South, which includes so many vegetables and
mhm,
fresh fruits and fresh ingredients that are incorporated into everything from salads to greens to, barbecue. So
mhm.
soul food can be much broader than what we expect it to be, and in fact incorporates this huge garden and, agricultural tradition as well.
Mhm, mhm. Um, One of the things that I think about a lot when I think about soul food and how I have learned just how deep it goes. My parents are Haitian. So I've as an adult have learned more about American soul food And so my first like exposure to it was like things like, the traditional mac and cheese, the collard greens, fried chicken. My husband is African American, Black American, so I learned from his family. But as I learned even more, it's like, no, first of all, we have so much in common in terms of the way that we prepare our foods and the ingredients that we use. And to your point, tons of vegetables and that garden to table element. We just don't talk enough about it and publicize it enough. So, as we're talking about your book, and first of all, I love how beautiful it is. Um, what are some foods, if there's a recipe specifically found in your book that really exemplifies that?
Oh, that's so hard. That's like asking me to pick a
I'm
favorite
sorry.
child.
Maybe like two or three.
So the book has a collection of recipes, some of which were developed by a recipe developer,
Hmm.
and some of which were submitted by Black food folks who are doing the work in the here and now, right? Because we wanted to make space for folks who are pushing
Hmm.
this narrative forward every day with their work.
Hmm.
And so it's a really beautiful mix. There's
Hmm.
Hoppin' John in there, um, which Hopping John is a celebratory dish, but also that dish on a plate, it tells the story of the slave trade, right? Um,
So, people who may not know what that is, what is Hoppin' John?
so Hoppin' John is a one-pot dish made of rice and field peas, which
Hmm.
is traditionally served for New Year's Eve or on
Hmm.
New Year's in the United States, right? And if you think about the transatlantic slave trade and how Africans were brought here, many of them for their expertise cultivating rice
Hmm.
in the low country,
Hmm.
and then field peas, right, as making that journey from West Africa to the United States as well.
Yeah.
That dish kind of tells our whole history, and the fact that it then became such an important dish for a holiday with even more meaning imbued into it, I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't realize that field peas were not indigenous to here, that they were indigenous to Africa. I had no idea. Wow. Um,
Let me put that down.
okay.
It's very heavy.
um, so you mentioned that this book you worked with a recipe developer and you spoke to other people who are in the culinary space, contemporaries, right? How did you decide who was going to be in the book? How did you
Mm.
Like, how do people even pop up on your radar? Because people from all over the country, right? Not just
Yeah.
DC.
So
Mhm,
I really relied on my professional network.
mhm,
As a food and travel creator, I've covered Black-owned restaurants, Black chefs, Black food festivals, Black mixologists, Black liquor and spirit brands. That's a core part of what I do, and I have been lucky enough to build really strong professional relationships with some of those people over the years. And so what I did when I had to interview people for this project and try to bring in as many voices as possible, keep in mind at the time, I had a very small following and I wasn't known in the space in the ways that I'm known today.
mhm.
I relied on my friends, those people, to try to get me interviews. I would cold call and cold email people, but I would also hit up the chefs that I knew and I was like, hey, do you think you could talk to so and so about maybe sitting down with me? And really just tried to be shameless about the fact that I needed, yes, some of their time, but
Mhm,
also I thought this project was super important and I wanted to include a diversity of Black voices. And you'll see in the book, there's folks that have Caribbean heritage, there's West
mhm,
African folks,
mhm,
there's folks that, their culinary roots come from the American South. And I wanted to tell that complete narrative because Blackness in the United States now means a lot of things.
yeah,
And, the diaspora, I think we're much more aware of our ties to the diaspora now.
mhm,
But I wanted it to be clear that this was a story about all of us. And
mhm,
so I asked everyone and I
mhm.
shot for the stars. And frankly, who's in the book now is just who gave me their time, who
Yes,
said
yeah.
yes to those requests.
Fair, fair. So as you are you're on this journey telling stories of foods um, here in the diaspora, right? What have you learned about yourself, if anything, throughout this journey? Because I could tell it's years in the making, right? So what did you learn in the process? If there's like one thing that you can take away from all of it.
What did I learn about myself? I learned that I need help Um, I think I think we glorify in our culture the idea of doing everything for yourself. And I
Big
think
time.
especially for Black women,
Yep.
it's like, you got this, you can do this, you just have to grind and be strong. And I don't want to be that strong anymore.
Right.
And so I had to put a lot of other parts of my life in my business on hold, or at least on the back burner to complete this project.
Mhm.
And the only way I was able to manage it all, and people are always like, "Oh, Anela, you're doing all these things. You did all of this by yourself." And I'm like, I did not do anything by myself. I did not. I have systems. I hired help. In my business, I hired an assistant. I hired a video editor. I had to get real with my own capacity
Mhm.
and honor that. And that meant at times spending money. It meant at times taking a step back from things, really trying to find a way to basically do two jobs at once.
Yeah. Yeah. Not basically. I feel like as you were writing, your platform was still growing. So yeah, definitely doing 2 jobs at once. Um, is there a particular moment that you found it challenging in writing a book? Because I've always heard how difficult it is. So you are a writer, plus you have your business that you're also running simultaneously. Um, what was the hardest part of that whole process?
So for me, I'm a writer, but I like writing other things. A
Mhm.
long historical narrative was a struggle for me. And
Sure.
I actually was diagnosed with ADHD not halfway, like 6 months into writing the
Mhm.
manuscript. I was talking to my therapist and she said, "Have you ever thought about getting screened?" And I was like, "For what? What do you mean?" And, I found this particular project to be so challenging because it's so detail oriented and it's so long, and it required a lot of just sitting still and sitting with one thing, which is
Yeah.
very hard for me as somebody who likes task switching and who definitely can hop from thing to thing, and that's kind of how I've always ran my own business, is I have
Mhm.
multiple pots going, and that feels good to me. That
Yeah.
feels balanced. And so for this, I had to get real with myself about how my brain works. I um I researched I researched apps for writing books. Like for
Mhm.
writing long manuscripts, I realized uh, Microsoft Word and Google were not going to work for me. I needed
Mhm.
something that had more structure and more segmentation and allowed me to just single focus on one concept at a time.
Mm.
Um, I did get screened, and it turns out I do have ADHD.
It's all good. It's all good.
And so I found that I had to be really strategic in how I set myself up to do this very focused work.
Mhm.
And as someone who sometimes struggles, especially to recall names and dates,
Mhm.
I'll remember your face for the rest of
Mhm.
my life. And I'll remember where I met you, but I
Yep.
won't remember your name.
Same.
This was so hard because I had to have basically like a wall of sticky notes
Mhm.
to track people and dates and concepts because otherwise it was just so much information.
Of course. That makes sense. So you mentioned that you were diagnosed with ADHD 6 months in. I think about a lot of friends who have been diagnosed in adulthood. And honestly, I feel like I need to be screened. My oldest has ADHD, and I see so many similarities in myself between us now that I'm learning about it just to help him, right? Um, Outside of the apps and the systems that you've put in place, is there any like specific self-care things that you've learned that have been helpful for you as you are navigating ADHD and just how your own brain works?
Oh, so many.
Talk to me.
Okay, for my own brain and just my own self care as someone who has a lot going on,
Hmm.
has ADHD,
Hmm.
and runs a business. So I'm the final decision maker for so many things. And sometimes I
Hmm.
just feel like I cannot make a single additional
Decision.
decision.
Right.
So, one is I don't sleep with my phone in my room, which I know people talk about this in many contexts, but I find that if I wake up first thing in the morning and I start scrolling, it sets the tone for a day that's just very hard to focus. So, don't sleep with my phone in my room. I also, um, I take, I try to take 20 to 30 minutes every day outside.
Hmm.
And that is my time to just let my mind roam wherever it wants to roam. My
Mhm.
little 20 to 30-minute walk in the city, I'm probably thinking about 10,000 things, but it's just like it's like mental venting. I
Yeah.
just need the space to be able to process all of the things that are happening.
Yeah.
And then one thing I do, which my boyfriend always picks on me and my friends think it's hilarious, but by the end of the day, on a work day, I'm usually tired of making decisions, and
Mhm.
the decision fatigue really slows me down. It makes it really hard for me to get through tasks, especially
Mhm.
at work. So I will research 2 different options for something, and if I think the options are generally similar, like I can't predict which one's gonna have a better outcome and I need to just choose, I just flip a coin.
Fair. I get it.
I flip a coin at least 5 times a day. I'm like, "Whatever." I'm like, "Should I start my email newsletter on this platform or this platform? I've researched both of them. Both have pros and cons. I'm gonna flip a coin," because the important part is I start the work of building the newsletter. It's not
Yeah.
that I choose the perfect home. There is no
Yeah.
perfect.
Imma steal that because that's my issue. I plan, and then, like, the final thing to, like, hit launch, I'm like, "Should I do this one or this one?" You know what? I'm not gonna do any of them because I'm overwhelmed. That's smart. I'm gonna flip a coin because
Also, if you don't have a coin, this is when my friends think I'm crazy. You can type "flip a coin" into Google, into the
okay.
search bar, and it'll virtually flip one for
For
you.
okay.
So, like 20 of my tabs open on my phone are just me flipping a coin.
All right. I'll take it. I would love to know a little bit more about you. So what is a food that always makes you smile no matter what?
Folks who follow me will know I have a very passionate relationship with nachos, okay?
Really?
Yes, I do, and I actually think DC doesn't have great nachos, which is, like, one of the saddest parts about living in this city. DC does fancy food really well, but
Mhm.
I'm talking about the chips have to be really crispy so that even
Mhm.
when you get to the bottom, they're still crunchy,
Mhm.
and I want them to have beans and meat and
Okay.
cilantro and onion and salsa and queso. Like, I want it to be this loaded
Yeah.
mound where I can get a bite that has everything, and to me, that's the ultimate comfort food. It's something that it just satisfies all of the pleasure centers in my brain, the cheese, the crunchy, the salty,
Mhm.
and yeah, maybe it's like it's that's the kid in me is like just a plate of nachos, of very
And
good
that's all right.
nachos.
I'm thinking in my mind, like, I haven't come across, nachos that's, like, been like, "Ooh," like, I remember it after the meal.
Oh, you
Talk
haven't.
to me. So talk to me about who's your favorite that you can think of right now?
A place in Arkansas, in Northwest Arkansas called Yayo's, unfortunately, I
Ah,
think still has the best nachos in the country, and I say unfortunately because it's so far.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, Arkansas scares me. I'm sorry. I hate to say it, but all right.
I understand, but it's something that especially at places where, like, they make their own salsa
Mhm.
and the beans are really flavorful, and then you can have a meat. It's like, to me, you get to try all the things that they've been making, right? The spicing on their
Yeah,
beans and the different salsas with the different heat and the different smokinesses and all of it kind of at once.
yeah, that makes sense. I get it. Now I'll be on a hunt for the best nachos in Charlotte, at least. If joy had a flavor, what would it taste like?
Ooh, okay, joy would taste like a really ripe, juicy mango.
Let's go. Yes.
Like the
Somebody
kind
asked
of
me.
mango where it drips down your
Yes.
face.
Yes, you have to sit on the porch. You gotta sit outside because it's a whole experience. Yes. Somebody asked me, "If you were a fruit, what fruit would you be?" And I'm like, "Mango, duh."
Mango.
Like, yes, absolutely. Um, is there a dish besides nachos, that feels like pure comfort when life is just lifing? You're having a rough day.
Ooh. So I'm Black and I also have some Japanese heritage. And so
Mhm.
to me, the bridge between those two things is rice,
Ah, true.
rice dishes. So to me,
Yes.
it's like any sort of one pot rice dish, which
Mhm.
exists in so many different cultures around the world. something that comes out and it's like hot and steamy and you get the rice, you get the flavors of whatever else it's cooked with, whether that's salmon or, you
Yeah.
know, beans, and it's
Yeah.
like the steam.
Yeah.
That to me is the ultimate comfort food, is like some hot, beautiful rice dish.
Fair. I'm with you. I'm with you. And as somebody who does so many things, you're a business owner and you are creating content, you're an author on a tour right now. What is the most joyful part of your workday?
Ooh. I think the most joyful part of my workday, and it's not every day, but is when I get to interact with people in real life. So much of my work happens on the internet or on the
Yeah.
page, but I am an extrovert. I like people and
Hmm.
I like getting out of my apartment and getting to meet people. So whether that's hosting dinners or meetups, which I often do for my subscription community, I host trips, group trips where I design this incredible custom itinerary based on what I've loved about visiting this place, and then we go do it together, or even on book tour, right?
Hmm.
It's, to me, so cool to be able to, I, as a host, take it
Hmm.
as my responsibility to try to create spaces where we can all be ourselves and be comfortable.
Hmm.
And I found that there's a lot of power in that. And people always ask me, "Oh, what is your tip to being a good host?" And I'm like, you have to show up authentically,
Yeah.
right? I show up as myself, and that sets the stage for other people to be like, "Oh, yeah, like, I can just kind of exist here too, and there's no need to be nervous, and there's
Yeah.
no need to act a certain way." Like, we are, as long as we're respectful of each other, we are all here to engage.
But yeah, I agree. One thing that I really did like immediately when you got on stage at the book tour, I forget what the question was, but you're just like, I don't fucking know. And I was just like, yes, I'm in the right place.
And that is that thing, right, where because I'm like, I'm not trying to present myself here as an expert, and in fact, just as I will in other interviews, sometimes when people ask me a question where I'm like, I need to get the answer right, I'll reference my own book. I'm like, let me open it and
Hmm.
make sure I don't misspeak because, again, dates and names are hard for me
Hmm.
and I don't want to get it wrong. But just having that little bit of vulnerability, I find makes other people so much more comfortable. And that's the magic that I think happens on the trips that I host, really. It's that I'm I'm the space maker and everyone there is able to kind of just step into that, and that's how I view my role.
Yeah. Yeah. The last question about you is how do you bring creativity into your work with food? And I feel like we that follow you know, but how would you describe it?
How would I describe it? I feel like vocalizing this is actually quite difficult because to me it's an intrinsic thing that I do.
Yep.
But ultimately, I try to tell stories about food. And I
Mhm.
try to tell stories about food that are deeply human. So sometimes the story might be just about this restaurant because I enjoyed it or they made it such a joyful experience. But sometimes the story is much more than that, right?
Mhm.
And so food and storytelling can take us around the world. It can take us, into our own history. It can encourage us to think more deeply about how we eat as a family, all of these things. And so I try creatively to nudge people to sometimes think beyond just their favorite restaurants, right? And I
Yeah.
I love a best restaurant roundup. I love
Mhm.
here are the 3 places in DC that I'm excited for. I think that that is also useful. But I think that there's space to step beyond that as well.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Um, I am just so excited about this book for so many reasons. You guys go get the book for yourself, for your family members. The holidays are just around the corner. I was just thinking about like, dang, we're in the Burr month. So like we're at the end of the year. So this will make a beautiful present, especially as like literacy and history is under attack. It's so important that we have these things physically in our homes and things. All right, so what is next, Anela? So you have this book, it's out in the world. What is next in your agenda? And in, you know.
In my big wide world of ADHD and trying not trying not to lose it. Um, so for me, I really want to continue telling stories that I think matter. And I'm pursuing that in a variety of ways, but the primary one is through a series that I'm hosting and producing called Our Block. And Our Block is a Black food and travel series that goes into communities in the US and uplifts the voices of the people living there, working there, organizing there, doing great work there now.
Mhm.
And food is the through line, but we're really using food storytelling to take us in so many different directions. And so far, we've already filmed in Chicago, Oakland, and Portland, Oregon. We'll be
Mhm.
filming 2 more episodes for this season as well. And I think, as you said, right now it's so important for us to have these stories. And
Mhm.
for us, the crew that I've been working on this show with, we've been thinking about how is it that we can own our own stories? And so Our Block is crowdfunded. We crowdfunded more than $65,000 to put this together.
Wow.
And it's really a testament to in this era, despite, book bans and the attacks on everything from museums to independent media, so many people want other outlets. They want other stories and they want to see themselves represented. Whether or not corporate America is going to get behind that is another question.
Right.
But there are people, not just us, but there are so many people who are trying to do that now. And so
Mhm.
I think that's what's next for me, but also I think in media in general
Yeah.
is you're going to see creative funding streams. You're going to see people really leaning into trying to do it their own way,
Mhm.
and building kind of their own networks, right? Which
Mhm.
is it's what people have done with podcasts. It's what people are
Mhm.
doing on Instagram, and now we're seeing the next evolution.
Yeah. So I'll definitely link that down below in the show notes. And of course, I will have the book, American Soul, The Black History of Food in the United States, linked down below in the show notes. Please go purchase it. Also, have your library request it as well. All of those things matter. Where can people find you on the internet?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Feed the Malik, which is the name of my platform. Feedthemalik.com is really easy to remember because everything will be linked there. The show, the book, all my social channels. And that's really where I hang out and I tell stories. And hopefully you can come along with me virtually or, to my next trip to Morocco.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Be Well Sis. If you'd like to get in touch with us, there's a link in the show notes. Be Well Sis is hosted by me, Dr. Cassandre Dunbar, and produced by Edit Audio. Don't forget to hit follow so you never miss an episode. Until next time, be well, sis.